Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today's recipe is a very comforting food. It's Aloo Gosht Shorba, which in English is a stew prepared with either lamb or goat meat and potatoes. It's a very comforting food, and today we'll show you how it's prepared in a simple yet traditional way. So let's get started. So today's ingredients: 500 grams of lamb or goat meat on the bones, 1 to 1.5 teaspoon of salt as per your taste, 1 to 1.5 teaspoon of red chili powder as per your spice level, half a teaspoon of Garam Masala, a couple of green cardamom pods, 300 or maybe 250 to 300 grams of potatoes, enough ginger and garlic to make 1 tablespoon of ginger and garlic paste, 1 large onion, 2 medium tomatoes, some fresh coriander leaves to garnish the recipe, a couple of curry leaves, 2 teaspoons of cumin powder, 2 teaspoons of coriander powder, and half a teaspoon of turmeric powder. Okay, so let's start the cooking process. It's a very traditional and simple recipe. So let's show you what we have prepared so far. So we have washed about 500 grams of lamb or goat. You can use it's on the bones. On this side we have soaked about 250-300 grams of potatoes. These are pieces slightly smaller than halves. You can either use halves or these size pieces. So the idea is the starch to be removed from this, and we'll leave it at least for an hour soaked in water so that we get rid of as much starch as we can. We have prepared ginger and garlic paste, about 1 tablespoon. Onions have been chopped finely into slices, and slightly chunkier pieces of tomatoes, so 2 tomatoes and 1 large onion. So let's start the cooking process now. So this recipe traditionally is done in a couple of different ways. I'll show you one of the ways today. It's the simplest one as well. So all the lamb or goat which you have prepared, washed, and is ready to go in the cooking process will be transferred here, and all the onions will go in as well, and tomatoes. Ginger and garlic paste. And except green cardamom pods and curry leaves, leave these for later. Add all the rest of the spices. Sorry, garam masala leave on the side as well, and rest of the spices will go in. So cumin powder, coriander powder, turmeric and red chili powder, and salt. So what I'll do now is I'll add about 1 cup of water to it, and I'll have it on high heat to bring it to boil. Once it's boiling, I'll put the lid on, and this will go on a low heat, and I'll cook everything together for at least 1 hour. In the meantime, at least halfway, I'll just check how the progress is and if there's enough water in the pan. So I've put it on boil, and as soon as it boils, the cooking will start at low heat. So it has come to a boil. The heat setting now will be set on low, and I'll put the lid on and I'll let it cook for 1 hour, checking halfway through. So about an hour later, this has been simmering at low temperature for about an hour. The important technical bit in this process is, and why I prefer this way, is because when you let it simmer at a low heat and let it cook this way, all the juices which are inside this lamb or goat are retained and not released. So it's very good in food value once it's prepared this way, and it tastes much better as well. So let's see how it's doing. So the lamb has cooked all the way through. I can see that there's little bit of water still left in there. So the water which you see in there, I'll try to reduce it by switching it at cooking it at low to medium heat for maybe I think 10 more minutes without the lid. So that will reduce the water which is in the pan, and after that we'll move on to the next step, which is to add oil and a couple of whole spices. Okay, 10 minutes later the water has reduced, and if you see, it looks more like a thick masala paste with all those onions, tomatoes and spices in there. And I think we're ready to add some oil to it now. Now this process is very important, and this is what will develop taste in this recipe. So you can add as much as or as less oil as you would like. It depends on your taste and your liking. I have used about a quarter of a cup of oil, and this stage takes about 10 minutes. The idea is for all those spices which have cooked in there to fry them. So once they get fried, that's when the taste gets developed as well. And keep giving it a gentle stir, making sure you don't break any of the meat at this stage. So 5 to 10 minutes I would say would develop a nice taste and fry all the spices, and we can move on to the next step then. So I've fried it for about 7-8 minutes, and if you see, the oil has started to leave and you can see it around the edges. So this is the time to move on to the next step, which is to add potatoes to it. These potatoes we have washed in running water. Rinse them well. The idea is to remove as much starch as we can, otherwise the whole stew can become really cloudy and starchy, which is not nice. So I'm going to add all these potatoes maybe. Okay, give it a little stir, making sure it's a gentle stir, and you don't mess up any of the mutton or lamb in there. That's enough. So I'll top it up with boiling water from the kettle, and on low heat we'll leave it to cook for about 20 to 30 minutes. Now top up as much water as you would like in your stew, but make sure it's enough for the potatoes to get cooked. There are different varieties of potatoes, and the time can vary a lot, but I think it'll take about 20 to 30 minutes. So I'll put the lid on and let it cook for at least 15 minutes initially, and I'll check how it's doing. It's been 35 minutes, 5 minutes over what I said. I did check while it was cooking, and the potatoes were a little more stubborn than I thought. They are well cooked now, and if you can see, there's a layer of oil which has separated on top of this stew. So that means it's all ready to be garnished. So I have garam masala here. So that's the first garnish. It's half a teaspoon of garam masala. If you wish to use more, you can use more. And I've got some coriander leaves as well, which I'll just break. And so this aloo gosht shorba or stew is ready to be enjoyed. Traditionally, it is enjoyed at home with roti or chapati, which is made at home. You can also enjoy it with naan bread. Naan bread goes really well with it as well, because naan bread can soak more stew than a traditional roti. So the way it's eaten is you soak your bread in the stew and have potato and lamb or goat in your bite, and it's very comforting, and it can be used for the entire family. It's made in good quantity so that everyone can eat it. This recipe took me about 2 hours to prepare, but to be honest, most of the time I was not even in the kitchen, so it was cooking on its own. People might think that these recipes take a long time, but most of the times you're not doing anything, it's cooking on its own. So I'll just spoon out some and we can do some tasting. So we're just going to try how it tastes. We have not prepared bread yet, but I'm going to try it on its own. It's a very popular recipe in Ramzan. If it's prepared for dinner in the evening, the same can be eaten for sehri, which is before you keep your fast, and it's early in the morning. So what we do is, normally we prepare a bread early in the morning and just apply some butter on it and have it with aloo gosht, and it tastes really nice that way. So let's see how it is. Potatoes are cooked perfectly. Took me 35 minutes. It depends on what type of potatoes you're using. Let's try some mutton as well. So tender and well cooked, and if you see, it's just falling off the bone. It's so tender, and the technique in which we prepared this, the juices, the healthy juices, it has retained in itself. It's not dry at all. It's perfectly done. Do try this recipe. It's not something you'll find in restaurants. It's a recipe which is traditionally a home recipe, but I think it's a brilliant recipe. It's very comforting, it's very filling, it's high in food value, and I think it's perfect during Ramadan. Keep watching our YouTube channel. We'll be back very soon with another recipe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you have not. Give it a thumbs up if you like this video, and we'll see you again very soon. It's bye for now.